Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Business Boutique for Health Pros with our expert, Leslie Battelle. Leslie, thank you so much for facilitating this. I always learn so much, as does our community.
Thanks. I'm so happy to be here with everyone today, Kiki.
And this is a really special topic. It's often the bottleneck for people. Leslie, you are going to talk us through some online lead generation strategies. So if you are a practitioner and you're like, yeah, I have my business model, I'm doing everything right, except I literally just cannot get clients. I cannot enroll people. Where are all the people? Where are all the clients? This should be a very, very helpful episode for you. So where shall we begin? I'll kind of pass it over to you.
All right. All right. Well, I'm never at a loss for words. So just based on your intro, it made me think of a couple things. All right. Getting leads, lead generation is super, super important. And that's really what we're going to hone in on today. I do want to point out that lead generation is pretty much synonymous with marketing, right? These are marketing tactics that you can start to implement in your business today. So I'm going to share three. I've got so many that I could share, but we're going to focus, we're going to really hone in on three of my favorite strategies today. So the other thing I wanted to mention is the sales component, right? So when it comes to actually enrolling clients into your programs and packages, that's all about that all important sales conversation, right? So just to make a little bit of a distinction there, right? So today our focus is on, how can I get more qualified, especially really nice qualified leads to come to my practice or to find me on my website or, pick up the phone and call or email or whatever the case may be. So that's what we're going to hone in on today. All right.
Perfect.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. So I picked three of my top strategies, and actually Kiki and I had a nice conversation before we went live today, and really decided that these were like three of the strategies that you could begin to implement that we really feel can really change things around for you in your practices. All right. So the first one that I want to talk about is it's kind of well, in a nutshell, it's sending a regular newsletter. All right. So sending a newsletter, that is not going to bring you leads in of itself. So there is kind of a part two to this particular strategy. The thing I want to emphasize here, though, is sending a regular newsletter to your audience. Guys, even if you have one person on your email list, it's important to do this. And even if that person is your mom, I want to add that, right? Because a lot of times that's where we start. We have our friends or our family on our email list initially. Regardless, it's super important to get into the habit of sharing a regular newsletter. And ideally, we're talking in an ideal scenario, we'd be looking at once a week. All right. Now, that might seem like a huge, jump compared to what you're doing now. And if that's the case, what I would recommend is that you commit to whatever is feasible for you. Because in this newsletter process, basically, we are developing that all important know, like, and trust, right? Trust being one of the key words here. So if you're going to say, hey, audience, my plan is to send out a newsletter every week, then you probably want to follow through with that, right? So bottom line is pick the frequency interval that you can commit to. If that's once a month, let's start with once a month. If it's every other week, then that's beautiful. If you can bump it up to once a week, that's like the best case scenario, right? So the thing I want to talk about next is, how do we get people to sign up for our newsletter? Because again, today's topic is all about generating ideally new leads, right? So the thing that I really want to recommend is to ensure that you've got a really compelling lead magnet or some kind of a freebie on your website, and that people can basically opt in to get. In other words, in exchange for them sharing their name and email address, they get this, helpful. It could be a tip sheet. It could be, there's so many different options. What I found is that quite often when we're trying to think of an idea for a freebie, notice I'm using these words interchangeably, right? Lead magnet, freebie, opt-in, it's pretty much all the same thing. What I see most commonly is that people kind of get in their own way. Like as coaches, practitioners, we kind of get in our own way. We overthink it. So really what I want you to do is try to just think about what is one quick win that I could offer my ideal clients, my target audience, in the form of a tip sheet or even a 1-page or 2-page max PDF. What is one easy win that I could, teach about or talk about or list in a, like a step-by-step process in that PDF? And that would be a really great topic for a compelling freebie. And guys, the idea here is you want to then, once you've got this lead magnet all, done, and it's on your website or on a landing page, whatever you choose to use there, you want to drive traffic from social media to that lead magnet so that you can start to not only grow your audience, of course, on social media, but basically your call to action on social media quite often ideally should be to hey, grab my my top 10 tips to help you to accomplish X, right? So you're driving traffic from social media to your website or to that, even if you've got like a standalone landing page where your freebie is housed, that would be great too, right? So does that make sense? Kiki, let me get a little feedback from you on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love that you're saying don't overthink it, because I could already see practitioners being like, let me carve out the whole week to do my freebie.
And guess what? Here's the reality on that. You don't have to research it. You already know it. If you have to go do research, like you're overthinking it. I promise you.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. No, that's really helpful.
You already have it stored right here. All you're doing with the freebie is you're just trying to break it down into maybe 3 steps. 3 steps that someone can go and, take relatively quickly. You're just trying to get them a quick win. That's really it. So if you think about like point A to point B, right? People come to you at point A. They're really, really struggling. They're having a hard time. They're, experiencing ill health, like all those things that they come to you with. And point B is way over here, right? Point B is they're fixed, right? They're doing awesome. They've transformed. So one way that I think is helpful to look at it, your freebie gets them like 10% there maybe, right? Or maybe even 5% there, okay? So it's a little tiny step in the right direction. So please don't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to come up with this huge dissertation. The reality is no one will read it. You won't get traction. I promise you. That's one of the biggest mistakes. Keep it short and sweet and easily consumable. Isn't it funny that we use that word? We want to make it consumable, right? So that people can download it and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so great. Like Kiki has helped me. She's condensed her process, or at least a starting point, into like a quick 10-minute little bite-sized nugget. That's really what people want.
Love it. Digestible, no probiotics.
Yeah. Consumable and digestible, right?
Perfect.
I love it. All right. So does that make sense? Okay. All right. Good. So again, offering a freebie, really not overthinking that freebie, just trying to think try to think of something that's compelling for your audience and just get it done. Like definitely done is so much better than getting stuck in perfection, right? So that's a whole nother conversation that we'll have another time. So let's move into the second strategy. So the second, I think, really powerful online strategy that I'm seeing really, a lot of practitioners and coaches having great success with is starting and nurturing a private Facebook group. All right. So now, to be sure, this strategy, it's not like you slap it up one day and you're done, right? It's just not that way. So I definitely, if this is intriguing to you, I would definitely come at it from the angle of, okay, this is going to require a little bit of my time on a regular basis, right? Even go in, knowing that it's probably going to be, I would say maybe 1 to 2 hours a week, maybe slightly more, depending on how much you put in. Okay. But basically, the idea here is that you can create and nurture a private Facebook group. And essentially, you're developing your own little network of fans of your work, right? That's the whole idea. Is again, we're developing know, like, and trust. Additionally, it's a great way to bring new people into your world, right? New people into your audience. So let me give you an example. All right. So um, because many of you may be wondering, well, oh my gosh, like, where do I even start with this? Do I just slap up a Facebook group? Like, okay, I can create that, but how do I actually keep it going?
And even just
Um,
what do I put in that group? Like,
yeah,
is it articles? Like, what is the content that I'm even doing in the group?
yeah, I love it. Okay. So, all right. So nowadays, I'd say articles are kind of okay, not super phenomenal. You do remember the days when it was like, oh, you could just share a link on your Facebook business page and call it a day? Like,
Totally.
yeah, those days are kind of over, unfortunately. Well, pros and cons to that, right? All right. So, what you want to be sharing in a Facebook group is, you're again, you're helping your target audience get to know you and your work, and just, kind of your methodology. So I guess I would think of it like you're giving them quick little wins, kind of like we did with the freebie, right? One strategy that I see work really, really well is to kick off a new Facebook group with like a 3-day challenge. Okay. I love that strategy. It is one that I have done myself, and I've helped many of my clients do. And what's beautiful about that, people get super excited about it, right? They, like, you come up with a concept, right? So you come up with a concept. You can even, think of, like, if you've done webinars or presentations, or if you've written like, literally you can extract and repurpose. But think of kind of like an overarching theme for a challenge. I use the word challenge. It could be, you could do a challenge. You could do like a 3-day training kind of series. For example, I had a client who was really successful doing this strategy, and she identified one of the urgent needs in her audience being to help them to overcome sugar cravings, right? So she went with that and ran with it, and it was super, super successful. So that was the theme for her 3-day challenge. And she tied in benefits in the title to overcoming sugar cravings, right? And I think in her case, she talked about, she specializes in weight management. So, to jumpstart your, healthy weight, to level out your mood, and and to boost your energy. Like, those were the 3 benefits that she used for her challenge. People get super excited and they tend to show up. So then what you do is you basically go live on those 3 consecutive days. If 3 is the number you pick, some people pick longer. I like 3. 3 seems to work. You could do 5 if you wanted. But basically, you're going to go live the same time every day for that period of time, like 3 days, and just pick a little lesson under that bigger topic that you can teach on. And the idea is to really serve. I mean, seriously, you want to serve people. You want them to, engage. You want them to really get a lot out of, the time they have with you, and to ask questions, and really to feel heard. So, the engagement piece is super important. But basically, once you get this Facebook group kind of going, it does start to show up as a recommended group when people are on Facebook, right? So when they're in another group, you'll all of a sudden start to notice you get more inquiries to join the group. And the one little tip I would recommend, I do recommend that you make it private. I do. I think that that just makes sense. And the other thing, I would definitely recommend that you have like 3 questions that people need to answer to get in the group. I would ask them, what is your biggest, what is your most significant struggle when it comes to X, whatever that problem is you solve. I would maybe ask them, what do they hope to get out of being a part of this group? And then you could say something like, I'd be happy to, if you're interested in receiving my XYZ lead magnet, please give me your email and I'd be happy to send that to you. So that's a good way to grow your list as well. So it is an awesome way to generate new leads. I was just, before we went live, I was sharing with Kiki that I'm in the process of doing this exact strategy myself in my own business. And I had a group like literally completely dead. Okay. Like for real, nothing happening. I had, I don't know, a few hundred people, nothing all that spectacular. This is the second time I've done this strategy and the group is over 1,000 now. But the more important thing than the number is that people are all of a sudden engaged and really, really excited about the topic, right? And when you have this group, it puts you in a great position. You've got this group, this group of fans that, honestly, you can monetize it, right? That's the whole idea. You want to make offers, invite them into the next step. So I love that strategy.
Perfect. No, that really does sum it up. I love the action steps, and the 3-day challenge I think is really compelling. So
yeah, the one thing I would add to that, Kiki, is after the 3-day challenge is over, if your goal is to continue to nurture this group, then you got to be well poised, right? Like it will die back down after the challenge unless you've got a strategy in place to keep the conversation going.
Gotcha.
So you got to make that strategic decision in your business.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we ready to go to the last one?
Do it.
All right, so the third strategy that I want to share with everyone today is to offer free and low cost webinars or training series, right? And the idea here again is to really get your name out there, get the brand out there, and invite people in so they can experience your genius, really. And that's really what this is about. So doing webinars and trainings, and honestly, they could be free or they could be just low cost, right? The idea here is twofold. It's to invite new people in to your audience, right? So by signing up for a webinar, they obviously have to share their name and email address. So I would make it by registration. And that way you have that opportunity to circle back to that first strategy, which is sending out a regular newsletter and continuing to grow that list, that email list, right? So, so you want to, the idea again with these webinars or training series is to get new people onto your list and as a part of your audience so they can experience your brilliance. I really think that webinars, especially if you are showing your video, they're super, super powerful. And yeah, and then ideally, you're going to pick a topic that is super compelling, right? So you really want to be cognizant that your topic actually solves an urgent problem that your audience is experiencing. And then you definitely want to be strategic and invite them to the next step. Guys, this is where most people kind of drop the ball, in all honesty, right? And I used to do this myself. I used to do it myself before I knew how to do this really strategically and in a way that helped me drive results to my business. So what I recommend, honestly, I'm a big fan of reverse engineering. So you want to think about what is the end result that you desire from doing this webinar? Is your goal to move people into one-on-one work? Is your goal to upsell into a paid program? That's what lots of my clients do. So you really want to start by thinking, what is your end goal here? And then design the webinar around that end goal. And do not be shy about inviting people into that next step. So a lot of times, like I said, we get kind of shy and nervous. But people, they want a next step. And I really think that you can position it in a way that doesn't feel yucky or salesy. You know, you can say things like, you know, just as an example, like as you lead to your pitch, you can say things like, you know, for many of you, you've gotten I hope you got tons of value from the webinar, all these strategies I've shared with you today. You can say, you know, many of you or some of you are probably starting to realize that you need more hand-holding and support to help you to really master these concepts. And that's what I want to talk to you about next. Do you see how natural that segue is? So it's not for everybody, and that's okay, right? But a percentage of people on your audience actually do want that next step, and it would be kind of weird if you didn't invite them to the next step, right? Right? So you really want to try to think about that strategically.
Absolutely. I love how you're kind of touching on how sales is really, it's giving and it's an exchange, and it would,
Yeah.
you know, we don't want to leave them feeling like, oh, okay, well, that's great. I'd like, now I realize I want to work with you. How do I figure that out? Like, make
Yeah.
it easy for them.
Make it easy. Yeah. Make it super streamlined and easy. And again, you only want one call to action on a webinar. You
Perfect.
really do. You know, and guys, I will mention that it could be a webinar. You could be doing Facebook Lives. Like that's not exact. It's a little different format. It does not necessarily require that people sign up. Although, I mean, in terms of registration and, you know, exchanging of name and email. Although one thing that you might consider with the second strategy with the Facebook group, a great way to drive engagement is by committing to doing weekly Facebook Lives,
Yeah.
right? And in those lives, you definitely, again, you want to figure out like, well, what am I doing this for? You know, what is my end goal? And so even with Facebook Lives or Instagram Lives, whatever you're doing, think about the strategy. What are you trying to accomplish?
I love that. Yeah. Reverse engineer it, as you're
Yes,
for everything. So thank you
that's
so
right.
much. I feel definitely a lot more confident about, you know, where to see clients, and I'm sure everyone else does. So really appreciate this. This is super valuable.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye for now.